Welcome to the first module in a two-part series entitled Understanding Unconscious Bias. These modules were developed by Dr. Cristina Gonzalez, a physician at Montefiore and a researcher in the area of unconscious bias. So what is unconscious bias? As an introduction to this concept and the module, please watch the following short video.
Our brain processes about 11 million pieces of information every second, but only 40 pieces of information actually make it to our conscious thought process. So what does this mean? It means we unconsciously process millions of pieces of information all the time very quickly. And the only way we can do that is to take mental shortcuts, where our brain fills in the information gaps with associations based on past experience. These mental shortcuts are what lead to unconscious bias, which we define as the information, beliefs, and stereotypes that affect our information processing subconsciously. So we need to be able to recognize and manage how our unconscious bias influences how we perceive people, how someone's age, gender, skin color, voice, how they impact us, and how we react differently to different people who may be conveying the same exact message. And that's human, but we need to be aware of it and manage it. This is not just a workplace topic. It applies generally to our ability to think critically and make really good decisions. And ultimately, that is what this course is about.
During this module, we will discuss and review the following: learning objectives, defining unconscious bias, examples of unconscious bias in our daily interactions, how we develop unconscious bias in the first place, what does this mean to members of the Einstein community, and topics that will be covered in Module 2. These modules have been designed to prepare members of the Einstein community with gaining critical knowledge and skills for creating and sustaining change that fosters an innovative, inclusive, respectful, and productive workplace. At the conclusion of this module, participants will be able to define unconscious bias, describe the difference between implicit bias and explicit bias, and recognize the influence of implicit bias on our workplace behaviors. So what is unconscious implicit bias? To ensure that we are on the same page and have a shared understanding, let's begin by reviewing some terminology. Unconscious bias is also called implicit bias. Throughout the program, the two terms will be used interchangeably. Unconscious and implicit bias refer to the unconscious, unintentional assumptions we make about others. Assumptions can be correct, harmless, or even funny sometimes. Other times, they can be hurtful to the individual on the receiving end and affect our behaviors toward one another and our workplace decisions. To be clear, we are not talking about explicit bias. Explicit bias is a very different thing. Explicit bias refers to the conscious and intentional opinions we form about others. It refers to the attitudes and beliefs we have about a person or group on a conscious level. These mental associations influence our perceptions, actions, and decisions. Yet because implicit biases are unconscious and involuntarily activated, we are not even aware they exist. So if we all have biases, how do we develop them? There is a great deal of scientific literature about the subject. However, in the end, it's very much about how we are socialized, the environment we grew up in, the media we watched, and other influences in our social circles. This does not mean that racism, sexism, or any other ism doesn't exist. The focus of this module is to discuss the effects of unconscious biases on the behaviors of good people with good intentions. So how is unconscious bias developed? Let's take a look at the following video from the New York Times titled Peanut Butter and Jelly.
Implicit bias.
Implicit bias.
Implicit bias.
2016 was the year that implicit bias went somewhat mainstream.
Yeah, so when Hillary Clinton mentioned implicit bias in the debates, our phones started blowing up, all our friends started emailing us about it.
But what is implicit bias? Implicit biases are basically thought processes that happen without you even knowing it. Little mental shortcuts that hold judgments you might not agree with. And sometimes those shortcuts are based on race. First, some clarity. Saying someone has an implicit bias is different from calling someone a racist.
The word racist is a highly loaded term, right, here in American society. A lot of times, when people are using it, they're thinking of the kind of old-fashioned Ku Klux Klan style racist.
But implicit bias isn't anywhere near that, explicit.
Implicit bias is something that comes out of ordinary mental functioning, out of how the mind normally works.
We've all grown up in a culture with media images, news images, conversations we heard at home, our education. Think of that as a fog we've been breathing our whole life. We never even realized it, what we were taking in.
And that fog causes associations that lead to biases.
I somehow know that if you say peanut butter, I'm going to say jelly. That's an association that's been ingrained in me because throughout my life, peanut butter and jelly are together. And in many forms of media, there is an over-representation of black men and violent crime being paired together.
And because of that, I actually deep down inside have been taught that black men are violent and aggressive and not to be trusted, that they're criminals, that they're thugs.
With all those associations, I'm not trying to let us off the hook, but in some ways, none of us stood a chance.
Unconscious bias is a regular part of human nature. Because it is a human quality, implicit bias is everywhere. It affects hiring, promotion, and payment practices. For example, recently in the media, there has been a significant amount of coverage on gender inequities in the workplace. Unconscious bias also affects police and community interactions, with members of some communities having disproportionately negative outcomes. It is important that we become and remain aware of the impact of unconscious bias on our decision-making and interpersonal exchanges. Being unaware can affect clinical decision-making by physicians, discipline practices in education, and socializing in the workplace. To illustrate unconscious bias in interactions, let's take a look at this clip from the HBO show Curb Your Enthusiasm. While watching the video, try to consider the perspective of each of the characters. Please be aware that this clip contains adult language.
Think I'm gonna steal your car?
No, I forgot to just put the alarm on. It's not you. It's no race thing. No race thing. Asshole. No, I don't even need the alarm on. Look, here, I'll turn it. It's off. I turned the alarm off. Look.
Did it again, huh? So what, the black man in a suit parks cars, black man no suit, he gonna steal your car.
What is it? I can't do anything in this city without you watching me, following me?
I told you I'm shooting here all week.
He just happened to be there when I turned around to put the alarm on. That's not my fault.
You saw the black man, you was like, let me lock my car. You put the alarm on. The black man made you go, let me lock the car.
No, I just hadn't done it yet, that's all.
And do you think a black man would want that piece of shit?
Piece of shit? How
Yeah,
dare
that's
you,
a
piece
little
of
toy
shit?
car. No black man don't want a toy car. Black man want a car with some get up and go.
I didn't think the black man wanted the car.
So look, did you hear back from Martin Schaefer about my script?
Yeah.
And? What?
Sorry to say, didn't like it. It happens.
Well, did you tell him I was black?
No.
Why didn't you tell him I was black?
Oh, I don't know. Why should I?
It makes a big difference. Larry, you don't know when to play the card. White guys, they love that shit. Whoa, look at me. I'm liberal, helping the black person. You should know better. That's when you tell somebody they're black.
All right, I'll tell him you're black, okay? Fine.
Tell them I'm like a brown-skinned black, not light-skinned. Make sure you know I'm like real black.
Hope I don't see you for a while. Getting sick of you.
Take your sick ass in the hospital.
In this video, on a conscious level, the white man was most likely innocently locking his door. Was he unconsciously triggered to think about locking his door because he saw the black man? It is impossible for us to know. The black man may be facing stereotypes and prejudice on a regular basis in his experiences. These experiences may have caused him to take it personally when someone locked their car as he walked by it. I doubt either character went into the encounter wanting to have a confrontation, but unconscious biases and lived experiences can lead to unintended outcomes. For the next video, please watch how unconscious biases can influence our behaviors, which in turn affect others.
Hi there.
Hi.
Nice day, huh?
Yeah, finally, right?
Where are you from? Your English is perfect.
San Diego. We speak English there.
Oh, no. Where are you from?
Well, I was born in Orange County, but I never actually lived there.
I mean before that.
Before I was born.
Yeah, like, where are your people from?
Well, my great-grandma was from Seoul.
Korean. I knew it. I was like, she's either Japanese or Korean. But I was leaning more towards Korean.
Amazing.
Yeah. Shastina. There's a really good teriyaki barbecue place near my apartment. So I actually really like kimchi.
Cool. What about you? Where are you from?
San Francisco.
But where are you from?
Oh, I'm just American.
Really? You're Native American?
No, just regular American. Oh, well, I guess my grandparents are from England.
Oh, well. Hello, Governor! What's all this then? Top of the morning to you. Let's get a small tea. Double, double, toil and trouble. Mind the gap, beware Jack the Ripper. Cheerio! I think your people's fish and chips are amazing.
You're weird.
Really? I'm weird? Must be a Korean thing.
The man seems to be trying to make friendly conversation and then tries even harder to connect based on his assumptions about the woman. There are common biases about Asian Americans always being foreigners. Dealing with these biases on a regular basis can be very frustrating, and may be what led to the woman turning the tables on the man. He did not have bad intentions, but she was hurt and reacted accordingly. In Module 2, we will review strategies to restore interactions that may have been negatively influenced by bias. What does this mean as a member of the Einstein community? Unconscious bias is part of human nature, therefore it means that our biases may influence many aspects of our daily work. So how do you feel as a member of the Einstein community? Do we work, teach, and learn in an environment that is welcoming and inclusive? Do we feel valued and included? Does it influence the assigning of specific tasks? How does it affect team dynamics? It is important to be aware how unconscious bias can influence the roles we assume people have within departments, potentially causing confusion and inefficiency. Think about who you might see in facilities, security, the laboratories, and across teaching encounters, and how your assumptions might vary based on who is standing in front of you. Everyone wants to feel respected, included, and valued. We want Einstein to run effectively and efficiently. Therefore, we want to capitalize on people's good intentions. If you take the blue horizontal line as the level of conscious awareness, you will see that unconscious bias lies below the level of your conscious awareness, and explicit bias is in the realm of your conscious awareness. Both can influence our workplace decisions and environment, along with many other factors including hiring decisions, advancement opportunities, and individual behaviors. If someone is explicitly biased based on ignorance and/or never having met someone of that identity before, then good intentions can prevail and get rid of the explicit bias. Good intentions eliminate explicit bias merely based on ignorance. We propose to bring awareness to implicit bias, therefore raising it above the blue line into the conscious realm. In Module 2, the goal is to focus on strategies that will help us be aware of when biases are being triggered and how we can minimize its influence and increase good intentions. Einstein's mission and vision statements describe what we do and serve as a guide for how we will continue to evolve. In support of the college's mission and vision, we are responsible and accountable for understanding and being aware of how our lived experiences can affect our unconscious biases. Think about how you might be making assumptions and how you can develop a strategy to give someone else who might be making an assumption about you the benefit of the doubt. We're in this environment together, and together we can work to help each other learn and grow to create a more respectful, inclusive workplace culture. We hope you have found Module 1 informative. In Module 2, we will focus on strategies for mitigating unconscious bias. For additional information and questions, please contact Human Resources at 718-430-2544.